Let's get to what we're talking about here, the funding battle on Capitol Hill. Joining us now is Marc Short. He served in the Trump administration as chief of staff to Vice President Pence, and Heidi Heitkamp, former U.S. Senator and director of the University of Chicago's Institute of Politics. And Senator, I wonder whether you're feeling it. I'm feeling it a little bit. I'm not saying it's really bipartisan love yet, but the border seems to be on the radar screen now of a lot more Democrats as a real issue. I don't know whether it's because 2024 is coming up, or whether it's what we're seeing in some of the big cities controlled by Democrats with Democratic mayors that are dealing with just a horrific situation. So why not be more amenable to tying some of the border provisions with the Ukraine and Israel situation?
Well, I think it's good politics for the Democrats to talk about border security, to see or to at least express concern that this problem needs to get fixed. And so you see it with new Senator John Fetterman saying, of course, we need to fix the border. John Tester is going to say, of course, we need to fix the border. We need to stop the flow of migrants across the border in a way that is disrupting not just the border cities, but also cities across the country. But, you know, the bottom line is, when you read the tea leaves, the progressives are mad about what they think is going to be an inside deal, and the conservatives are mad because they're afraid it won't go far enough. And so, you know, we'll see how this whole thing turns out, but it's going to run straight into a budget crisis, because they have until January 19th to fund the government, and they still haven't decided on top lines. So I'm optimistic that people care, pessimistic that they'll get it done.
Heidi, I don't think you meant to really say, yeah, it would be politically expedient for Democrats to start, pretending that they care about it. That's not what you really meant. I mean,
I didn't say pretending, Joe. I said
it's important.
When I was there, I talked about border security all the time, whether it was on the northern border or the southern border. To suggest that Democrats unilaterally have not been concerned or want an open border, I think, has been an exaggeration. The question is, how do you secure it? Guess what? You don't secure it with a 40-foot wall that people can scale.
Marc, if you're on the far right, you think Democrats want the votes from some of the down the road, that these are people that are going to vote Democrat. Is that what's happening? Is there a deliberate reason to not want to handle what's happening on the southern border, Marc? Would you say that that's a really cynical view of what's going on? I can't figure out why it's been neglected for so long.
Yeah, I probably share that cynicism, honestly, Joe. When I was President Trump's director of legislative affairs, I always knew that Senator Heitkamp was committed to border security, but unfortunately, very few of her colleagues do. And I think that Democrats do prefer the issue rather than actually solving our border crisis. I think that right now, as we look to the government funding and what's going to be happening in January, there's going to be a lot of commitment to throw more money at it. But what Republicans really want is a change in policy. As you know, the Trump administration put in place the Remain in Mexico policy. So if you're applying for asylum, you have to stay in Mexico until your asylum claim is adjudicated. What Democrats and the Biden administration have pushed for is just an open border policy. And so there'll be a lot of conversation about the dollars, but that's not really the crux of the battle. The crux of the battle is going to be on policy change that actually allows border security to have the authority to turn back migrants who don't have a right to be inside our country.
I don't know what Speaker Johnson's dealing with right now, Marc. I don't know whether you hear what's going on. Would it be possible for him to continue to do some of the things that Speaker McCarthy did in terms of using Democratic support for certain things? Do you think that original deal that former Speaker McCarthy had with the Biden administration for spending levels, that would the right side of the caucus, the Freedom Caucus, would they go along with that down the road?
You know, Joe, the irony is what Kevin actually negotiated was about $30 billion less than what we ended up actually passing to keep the government open a couple months ago. And so as you get to the January and February funding battles, I think Speaker Johnson does have a little more leverage. I think that the reality is that the bloodletting was so severe for Republicans that many don't want to go through that again. It doesn't mean that there's going to be Republicans who support government funding. There's going to be a handful that will never support whatever is moving forward because we're at $34 trillion in debt now. Having said that, I don't think there's going to be the same effort, the motion to vacate to try to remove Speaker Johnson. So I think he has a little more flexibility to negotiate and get a funding bill passed in January and again in February because we split the bills into two.
Heidi, where are we now, do you think, in terms of across the political spectrum for Ukraine versus Israel? That's been interesting to watch, has it not? And in fact, part of the, and I would ask you about President Biden's recent numbers are just crazy. It almost looks like he's losing Democrats because the far left, the progressives, are splintering because of the way the Israeli situation is playing out and the Hamas situation is playing. He's losing some Democrats. He can't win, it doesn't seem like.
Well, we're a long way from 24 election, but I will tell you, these are incredibly difficult problems. And the bottom line is, I think there's more Republicans than what you see on television who support Ukrainian funding. And as you know, I'm pretty adamant that these are freedom fighters. They're fighting for our democracy. They're fighting for Western Europe's democracy, and we have to get them the support that they need. I think there's support for that. But again, to the point that you made, just a few people can make life very, very difficult for doing the right thing. And, you know, the full-throated support that the administration has for Israel, I think, is consistent with long-term policy. But I think you also see a lot of diplomacy around, you know, can we solve this problem diplomatically moving forward so we don't see a continuation of what's happening to civilians in Palestinian civilians in Gaza. And you know, we'll wait and see what happens. Let me tell you, you know, when the choice comes down between President Trump, who has basically said, you know, we aren't even going to let you in our country, or President Biden, I think that, you know, that doesn't seem to be a choice if you're pro, you know, helping the Palestinian people, not Hamas, but the Palestinian people.
These are all such weighty issues, Senator Heitkamp. It's hard to even, you know, I always like to joke around with you about everything. I'm just, I got to just for quickly do it. I mean, are you like Hillary Clinton? You wearing a commander's hat now because you're in? I mean, did you abandon the? What are you? Vikings, Commanders, the Bears? You're all over the place. Do you know what?
You know what? I've always been a Green Bay fan. I'll keep being a Green Bay fan,
okay.
Even though we didn't look so good on Sunday.
And where are you right now? That's Bob Marley, isn't it? Is that my buddy Bob?
It is.
I listen to Tough.
It is.
You know what Tough Gong is? Tough Gong Radio. I listen to that all the time. Makes me feel happy. It does, and I need it. Marc, I don't know what you're. Go ahead, Heidi.
I was going to say, I got that painting in Belize. It's one of my favorite purchases in one of my trips. And next to Bob is my other hero, Janis Joplin. So we're good.
You are a Renaissance woman. Marc,
Marc, you just got the NASDAQ.
The NASDAQ is nice. The NASDAQ is nice, isn't it? Is it nice down there? What's it like there? Is it nice? It's nice, isn't it? Nice.
It's wonderful being down here. Thank you, Jeff.
I know, it is.
He's enjoying the space. We're going to get him some coffee, Joe. He's got some papers. Jake Kernan on him.
I'm still hail to the Redskins, though, Joe.
Okay, are you? Oh, my God.
Absolutely.
Oh, my, you're canceled. You're not coming back. See you later.